Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, as always, zinniawealth.com, zinniawealth.com. All right, something that might happen to you in your retirement years is you may have some inheritance coming your way. You've heard about the great wealth transfer, all this money that's supposedly coming down. It might not be millions, but what if, mom passes away and she has a house and the house is $350,000 and that comes your way? And then what do you do with it? So I found an interesting article about a brother and a sister. They're in their early 50s. Ellen and Arthur, and they had an aunt who passed away, no children. They got the money, and it was $1 million, and so each one got $500,000. And so it outlined how each of them handled the money. So here we go. So here's Ellen. She pays off her mortgage. It was $280,000, okay? She did some home renovation. Then she had some fun. She went on an expensive cruise. She did a little gifting. But 3 years later, the money was gone. And she's got a lot of equity in her home, which is going to help her for sure, but all the spending money is gone. Now, Arthur, her brother, went a different way. He decided to pay off his high-interest credit cards, all his high-interest debt. Then he increased his contributions to his retirement accounts. And then as he needed money, as gap money along the way, he sort of drew on it, and he's still got a lot of that money left. So obviously, we look at Arthur and say, well, that was probably a better way to go. But tell me, when you look at people who get an inheritance, what is your experience? Do they keep a clear head? Do they go out there and spend very freely? Do they plan for the future? What is it that you see when someone gets an inheritance?
I see more times than not, people spend it. They don't do what their parents taught them to do.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. I wish I could say they do really great with it.
Mm-hmm.
But over and over and over again, I see people inherit money and they go buy that car that they always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it also depends on the age. So the younger people, I really feel like do a terrible job with it. When you're retired, I see you do a much better job with it. So it depends on your age and what I personally have seen. And so Arthur, you're talking about, he was responsible. He paid off his mortgage. And then he still had the money there later because it was making money. He added to his retirement accounts or his portfolios, wherever it might be. So he has more money at the end of the day. So he's not cash poor. All of his money is in equity. And if you guys go back to 2007, 8, 9, it was the biggest. Everybody said, no, we want to put all of our money into our houses. Nobody saw a subprime mortgage crash come. Everybody, it was the worst time. I was in this business and so many people's money were just in their house because we were just taught, well, we got the equity. We can pull it out later. And that didn't happen. And people were cash poor, holding their hat, on their hands and just sitting there saying, well, that didn't work out. Would have been nice if we saw that coming, right? And so this is why it's just so critical to work with a retirement planner, a financial planner that does the stock jock stuff, that does the income stuff, that does the full plan, the tax plan, the legacy plan, the healthcare plan, because all this stuff is going to happen. And it's going to happen over and over again in our economy. And prepping yourself and just getting ready for what if factor, I think, is going to be very, very important. When you get an inheritance, don't just go out and go spend it all, because a lot of you might be paying a lot of taxes on this inheritance, right? I'd rather hear the story of Arthur a lot more often than the other young lady, because where's the income coming from?
Yeah.
I always ask, where's that income coming from? And sometimes we just have bad habits. We never get out of those habits. And then you're finding yourself in the same place you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, because you only get so much inheritance money. And then you're just like, oh, here I go again. Now I'm going back to work, and we don't want that in retirement.
You think about where you would be in your early 50s, and you would probably at that point still be working with a stockbroker. You would be working with someone who's all about growth. So you go to that person and say, what should I do with my inheritance? What are they going to tell you to do? Probably dump it in the market. That's what they're going to tell you to do. If you sit with a retirement planner, they're going to have a whole different viewpoint of how you can help that money build your retirement in the future. So this is one of those times when, it could be as simple of, Sharice, should I buy the car or lease the car? Sharice, I like this town, this place on the beach. Should I buy it? Should I rent it? These are the conversations that come up in retirement. Hey, we found this place that we really like. Should we just go there twice a year, or should we buy this place? Yeah, okay. Let's have those conversations. That's what it is to have a person like Sharice on your side.
And it's timing too, right? Like if you get all this inheritance money and you say, I really want to take this money and go invest it into some housing and I'm going to buy and sell and that kind of stuff. And the market's high doesn't make sense. Or if the market's low doesn't make sense. So it's knowing where to invest that money at wherever we're at in our economy is also going to be key, right? Because rents, probably going to be going down. Houses are, high. It depends if we're in an inflationary period or a deflationary period. There's so many things to look at because it's also timing, because what you knew 10 years ago very well might not be the best strategy this year, especially if you're going to be responsible with the money. So I think that's important. And for the other person on the other side, the person who inherits the money, that's mom and dad, grandma and grandpa. Hey, if you're worried about your kids buying that red Ferrari you never did because you had a hard time spending that kind of money, then we create really beautiful trusts where you can rule from the grave.
Nice.
So do remember that.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Charisse Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.